It was a half a day, so we had lunch last. Ollie and Andy followed me to our table. It was our group's table. Group members only. If anyone else tried to sit here, they would probably regret it. Ollie and I decided to start a food fight, and then Andy joined. We started to get the teachers' attentions when a pizza slice was thrown over at their table. All the teachers were pretty much used to how we acted by now, knowing no matter what they do, nothing can stop us. Even if we had detentions daily, but Mr. Fuentes is new, so he isn't really done with us yet. He got up from his seat, walking over to our table. I rolled my eyes. "Eat your food, not throw it," he said strictly. It was funny seeing him pretend to be strict. Maybe if the school cooked actual food, it wouldn't be so easy to use as a food fight. I said back. I can see a grin forming on his face because he also knew the food was bad, but he quickly went back to serious. Andy and Ollie laughed because they noticed him start to grin also. "Maybe if you three could behave for once, you wouldn't have to stay in my office after school today." He grinned and walked back to the teacher table. I see what he was doing. Trying to be sarcastic back to at least get into our language. Teachers are normally professional and mature, but he just acted cool, like an actual student with that comeback. Bad luck for him, because having all three of us in detention at once was a lot to handle. I just evilly smirked at him and he rolled his eyes. "Detention it is then, mate." Ollie started back up a conversation. "See you guys there." Andy grinned. I can tell he was up to something but wasn't really sure. "Or we can skip it," he added. The thing was, I actually wanted to go to this detention because it would be with a new teacher, not the old strict ones. "Nah, I'm going." They both nodded after I said that. Basically, if I went somewhere during school, a detention they went also. Well, most places. We can hear our stomachs. "We really need to find something to eat besides this disgusting school food," Andy added. "School's over in a couple. Anyways." Then I remembered. Oh, we can survive detention without food, it's just like an extra hour. The lunch bell rang. We didn't pick up our mess, we just ran to detention to get it over with already. I entered the room and we all sat in the front middle instead of the back. We were the only ones in detention today. "Don't worry, I won't make you guys do any work. Just sit of boredom," Mr. Fuentes said as we sat down. "Isn't that what we do every day?" Ollie replied. I laughed at what Ollie said, cause it's true, we don't really do our work, just sit of boredom every school day. Mr. Fuentes raised an eyebrow. "I mean, if you want work," Fuentes started, but I interrupted him. "Of course we don't want work." Mr. Fuentes went back to grading papers and Ollie got bored and decided to get flirtatious. Andy always gets freaked out when Ollie does this shit, so he scooted a couple desks down. Ollie put his hand on my thigh, rubbing it slowly, and whispered in my ear. "Where are we going after school today?" He bit his lip. "I was going to take you to a couple clubs, but I trailed off." He put his other hand through my hair. "And what about after the club?" He rubbed a little more on my thigh, getting close to my front area. A couple shivers were sent throughout my body and I bit my lip, getting lost in his hazel eyes again. He went in for a kiss, starting softly and getting a bit intense as his tongue entered my mouth. A moan slipped through my mouth into his. The teacher was watching the whole time and decided to finally split us up when things got heated. "No kissing in school." "Thanks," Andy said, because he was getting more uncomfortable. Ollie bit his lip as he got lost in my green eyes. He whispered sexually in my ear. "After the club it is." He took his hand off of my thigh and hair. We were probably going to be really drunk after the club, but I wanted to keep my promise with him. But I trailed off, looking at his sexy face. He leaned in to whisper back in my ear and his hot breath blew on my face. "Before the club." I can tell already he was being impatient. I nodded. The teacher noticed Ollie was still being sexual, so decided to butt in. "Do I need to separate you two?" he asked. Ollie got a bit angry. What? Are you against gays or something? He gave a death glare towards the teacher, but he just bursted out laughing. We all wondered why he was laughing. Answer me, Ollie said angrily. Why would I be against my own sexuality? The teacher smirked. All of our eyes widened. Mr. Fuentes is gay. Maybe that's why he was a little more fun than the other teachers. He quickly went back to grading his papers, regretting he said anything. So you tell us your sexuality but not your name or age, I laughed. He rolled his eyes. Call me Vic, just not in front of other teachers. Vic. Vic Fuentes. Has a nice ring to it. Another mumble of a thought from my brain I didn't mean to say out loud. Thanks, he smiled. He still avoided the age question, so I left it alone for now. Well, Victor Fuentes, but I prefer Vic. Ollie and Andy smiled because they also used nicknames. I decided to spit out a fact. My last name isn't actually Quinn, that's my middle name, it's Bostwick, but I prefer Quinn. Vic nodded. Ollie stopped facing me and faced normally in the desk. I'm British, are you Mexican or something? And Irish, Vic added. I nodded. Andy, stop being so quiet. Oh, I'm just bored. He sighed. And can I ask nicely that you guys cooperate more in guidance counseling? Vic asked her, so I guess I wasn't the only one hesitating on answers to questions. I'm surprised he didn't say something like, actually try in English classes or something. We all nodded. Why, so you can know our personal life, I said with a bit of anger and sarcasm. He turned around to write tomorrow's lesson on the board. I couldn't help but stare at his ass in black skinny jeans, biting my lip. Ollie noticed and punched me playfully on his shoulder, whispering into my ear again. Kells, what you doing? I liked how he was a bit defensive when we weren't exactly dating yet. Stop focusing on what I'm looking at and maybe focus on how you're going to ask me to be your boyfriend. I laughed. One of my hands were on my lap, so Ollie put his hand on top of mine. I'm still getting around to it. Ollie was like the only person who can call me Kel or Kells. He bit his lip and started making out with me while Vic had his back turned. I let out a soft moan when Ollie entered his tongue into my mouth, which caught Vic's attention. Again, he laughed. Oops, Ollie said sarcastically. It was like he was trying to get Vic jealous for some reason. He stopped putting his hand on mine. Vic rolled his eyes. I heard you guys talking about a club, right? Yeah, Andy replied. Aren't you too young for clubs? The only ones in town are 21 plus, sometimes 18 plus. Don't worry about us, I said strictly. I was also wondering because I was also hitting some clubs. He grinned. He wasn't really being teacher-like right now. I liked that. So you can stalk us. Leave us alone. Ollie was a bit annoyed. I had the plans before I knew you were going. Vic went back to writing on the board. I wanted to ask which clubs so we can avoid them, but I knew he would probably say the wrong ones, so we would go to the opposite. The bell rang. Detention was finally over. I took my time as Ollie and Andy left. The bell rang, Vic said. I know, I'm not deaf. Last time I checked, I laughed. Okay, Vic was wondering why I was still here. I decided to be a bad boy. You know your ass looks cute in those pants. I winked. I saw a tiny bit of blush form on his face. Not appropriate, he mumbled, but I can tell you he liked it. Ollie of course liked me, so he was waiting in the doorway making sure I don't do anything stupid. I bit my lip at him, winked and left. What was that? Ollie asked. Nothing, just making a teacher feel uncomfortable, that's all. It was obvious I was lying. Ollie really liked whispering in my ears a lot, cause he leaned in and did it again. You're cute when you're nervous, he repeated from earlier. I smiled and we started leaving the doorway. I knew Vic saw what Ollie and I just did, but it didn't matter. Club. We didn't have time to go to Ollie's bedroom, so we decided to wait after the club even though we will all be drunk. Andy handed us fake IDs. Now we just had to act older and we will be fine. Ollie decided to buy drinks for me and Andy bought his own. I took a shot glass and chugged it. Ollie started a competition and took a shot glass and chugged it also. We didn't even know what it was, we just asked for the strongest thing they got. Andy had a couple drinks and went to the dance floor with the chicks. I chugged down the second shot, then third, as Ollie did also. Then we decided to just buy the bottle and take turns chugging from it. We didn't really go to the dance floor, just hanged around the bar. Once we got really drunk, we started making out. He entered his tongue in my mouth and our tongues touched. We were sitting in a position where I could see the dance floor and the entrance, and Ollie just sees the bar, so that's when I saw Vic walking. Out of all clubs, he picked this one. Instead of the fancy shirt and a tie, he had the same black skinny jeans but a red t-shirt on. I took my lips off of Ollie. "What's wrong, love?" He bit his lip. I gestured behind him. Vic was standing behind him with his arms crossed. "I know you're too young to be drinking," Vic said, but he said it quietly to not rat us out to the bartenders. I was a bit nervous of being snitched and the bartenders kicking us out so we couldn't get more drunk, so I started playing with my hair. "Okay, so you're not our teacher after school hours," Ollie said defensively. Ollie turned back at me and did a quick kiss and whispered in my ear, "I'll be in the bathroom." He got up and left. "Great, this is awkward." "Yes," I said with innocence, because he was still standing in the same spot with his arms crossed. The alcohol really started to hit me, because when I went to stand up to just go with Ollie, I almost fell to the ground, but I felt muscular arms holding me back up. "You all right?" It was Vic. I didn't know his arms were this muscular, not as muscular as Ollie's, but still muscular. "Yeah, I fine." "Yeah? Fine." I lost words for a second in his grip. He nodded slowly. "You should go home." He seemed concerned. I knew I had to get to Ollie cause he was probably getting impatient. "No. Really, it's good." I tried to loosen from his grip but couldn't. "If I let go of you, you can't stand on your own. You're highly intoxicated right now." He still seemed really concerned. Was I really that bad? I nodded. "Can you take me to the bathroom, please?" He knew I just wanted to see Ollie, but he carried me to the bathroom anyways. On the way there, he asked some questions. "Wasn't your friend Andy coming?" "He is on the dance floor drunk with some chicks," I giggled. He opened the bathroom door to the men's room. "You're really that drunk, mate," Ollie said, because he saw Vic carrying me. "Guess I won the contest." He laughed. Vic rolled his eyes. "You're too young to be doing this, obviously it has a big effect on you," Vic said as he finally let me go and I leaned on Ollie a bit to stand. Ollie put his arm around me, grabbing my ass. I bit my lip. "We're fine from here," Ollie said, but Vic still looked really concerned. He knew Ollie wanted to have sex with me, but he also knew I was too drunk to do it. "How drunk is Andy?" "Very, not as much as Vic though," Ollie replied. "I guess I'm the only sober one. I'm taking you guys home," he said. "Have a couple drinks and just relax," Ollie smirked. Vic just rolled his eyes. "Kellic, are you sure you're alright? You seem the worst out of the three right now." "How much did you drink?" Vic kept asking questions, but I started to black out. Next thing I knew, I passed out, falling next to Ollie. I'm pretty sure he caught me before my head hit the floor. Vic's POV. I know I didn't really want to switch paths, but Kellic passed out, so nothing can really happen from his POV at the moment. "Good save," I said. Ollie started to finally be a bit concerned. "Is he alright?" he asked. I nodded. "He will be fine, he just drank a little too much, he needs rest." Good thing I came here, because it looked like Ollie had plans to drive Vic and Andy home, but he was obviously drunk. I left the room for a minute to get Andy. I dragged him out from the dance floor. "What do you want?" he shouted. "Calm down, your friend Kellic passed out. He got nervous." "Is he okay?" "Where?" I dragged Andy into the bathroom. Okay, I'm going to drive you three home. I wanted to finally have some time in my life to relax and party, but I knew I couldn't leave underage kids drunk alone. Ollie picked up Kellen, bringing him to the car, and Andy followed. To be continued.